Our story begins in an immense dark void. It is a time before time, nearly 5 billion years ago. Here, a vast cloud hangs suspended in the cold silence of space. Dust gas. This was the stuff of stars, the leftovers from a cosmic explosion long past. A silent swirling nebula of hydrogen-helium sprinkled with heavier elements forged in the hearts of dying stars. It was a patient, quiet beginning, but this tranquility was not destined to last. A powerful shock wave from a nearby supernova rippled through the cloud. A star's final, cataclysmic breath, the disturbance set everything in motion. Gravity, the silent architect of the cosmos, began its tireless work. The particles of dust and gas, once scattered, started to pull towards one another. A slow, inexorable gathering began. The clouds started to spin, faster and faster, like water spiraling down a drain. At the very center of this swirling vortex, the pressure and temperature began to climb to impossible levels. Matter was crushed together with such immense force that a new star ignited. Our sun was born, a brilliant beacon of light and heat, pushing away the lighter gases but leaving the heavier rocky materials behind. This newborn star was not alone. It was surrounded by a spinning platter of leftover material, a protoplanetary disk. Within this flat, rotating ring of debris, the process of creation continued on a smaller scale. Tiny grains of dust, no bigger than specks of smoke, began to stick together. Electrostatic forces like the static cling on a dry day drew them close. First they formed small clumps, then larger clusters. These clusters grew into pebbles, the pebbles into boulders, and the boulders into massive planetesimals, the very first building blocks of planets. It was a chaotic cosmic construction site, with countless objects colliding and merging. The young solar system was a violent, crowded place. These planetesimals, some many miles across, hurtled through space on wild, intersecting orbits. They were caught in the sun's immense gravitational pull, but they also pulled on each other. It was a celestial free-for-all, a cosmic demolition derby where only the largest could survive. In this maelstrom, one particular collection of rock and metal began to dominate its orbital path. It swept up smaller bodies, growing larger and more massive with every collision. This growing sphere, glowing red-hot from the energy of its constant impacts, was the Proto-Earth. A world was beginning to take shape. The young Earth was not the blue marble we know today. It was a hellish, molten sphere, a world forged in the crucible of constant, violent impacts. For millions of years it endured a relentless storm from the heavens, a period known as the Late Heavy Bombardment. Asteroids, comets, leftover debris from the solar system's formation, rained down upon its surface without pause. Each impact was a cataclysmic explosion, releasing more energy than all the nuclear weapons on our planet today. These collisions kept the surface in a perpetual state of molten rock, a glowing ocean of magma over 1,000 miles deep. Under the immense pressure of its own gravity, the young planet began to differentiate. The heaviest materials, iron, were pulled inexorably towards the center, nickel. They sank through the lighter molten rock in a slow, monumental cascade, a process that took millions of years. This great migration formed Earth's dense, metallic core. This act of separation was crucial. It would one day create the magnetic field that protects our world from the sun's harsh solar winds. The lighter silicate materials, meanwhile, floated upwards, eventually cooling to form the planet's mantle, crust. It was a planet organizing itself from the inside out. This world was a symphony of fire and rock. The surface was a terrifying landscape of magma oceans with temperatures hot enough to vaporize metal. There was no solid ground, no water, no air to breathe. The primitive atmosphere was a toxic blend of gases vented from the planet's interior. Carbon dioxide, nitrogen, water vapor, all trapped by the young world's growing gravity. It was a thick, suffocating blanket that held the heat in, contributing to the extreme surface temperatures. This was not a welcoming place. It was a planet still in the throes of its violent birth, a world of pure, raw geological power. Yet even in this inferno, the foundations of our home were being laid. The very bombardment that rendered the surface a molten hell was also delivering vital ingredients. Comets, which are essentially giant, dirty snowballs of ice and rock, slammed into the planet. While the heat of impact vaporized the ice instantly, the water vapor was added to the thickening atmosphere. Just as the Earth was beginning to settle, the greatest cataclysm in its history was about to unfold. The young solar system was still a chaotic place, and our planet was not alone in its orbit. Another world, a protoplanet roughly the size of Mars, was on a collision course. Astronomers have given this doomed object a name: Theia. It raced through the void, its trajectory locked in a cosmic dance of death with the still molten Earth. The two worlds drew closer, their mutual gravity pulling them into an inescapable embrace. The stage was set for an impact of unimaginable proportions. The collision was not head-on but a colossal glancing blow. Theia struck the Earth with incredible force, shattering its own body and blasting a tremendous volume of our planet's mantle into space. The energy released was staggering, thousands of times greater than the bombardment that had preceded it. The impact tilted Earth on its axis, giving us the seasons we experience today. For a time our world was surrounded by a glowing superheated ring, vaporized rock debris. The Earth itself was remelted, its surface once again becoming a global ocean of magma, hotter and more violent than ever before. Out of this chaos a new creation began to form. In orbit above the wounded Earth, the debris from the impact began to coalesce. Gravity once again took charge. The particles of molten rock vapor began to clump together, slowly gathering into a single spherical body. In a remarkably short period of time, perhaps only a few thousand years, this material pulled itself together to form our moon. It was born from the very substance of our own planet, a true child of the Earth. At first it was incredibly close, appearing enormous in the sky, and its powerful gravity exerted a tremendous pull on our world. The presence of this large, close moon had a profound effect. Its immense gravitational pull created enormous tides in Earth's magma ocean, helping to keep the planet's interior hot and geologically active. As the moon slowly receded, its gravitational influence stabilized Earth's wobble, preventing wild swings in climate that would have made the emergence of life difficult, if not impossible. After the moon's formation, the Earth began a long, slow process of cooling. The relentless bombardment from space finally subsided, giving the planet a chance to breathe. The surface, no longer being constantly remelted by impacts, started to solidify. A dark basaltic crust formed, like a thin skin over the still molten mantle below. But this crust was not stable, it was fractured and violent. Volcanoes erupted everywhere, spewing lava and releasing vast quantities of gases from the planet's interior. These gases, including immense amounts of water vapor, poured into the atmosphere, making it thicker and denser. As the planet continued to radiate heat into space, the temperature of the atmosphere eventually dropped below the boiling point of water. The water vapor that had accumulated for millions of years, delivered by comets and released by volcanoes, began to condense into thick, heavy clouds. And then, the rain began. It was not a gentle shower, but a relentless, global deluge that lasted for thousands, perhaps millions of years. Water poured from the heavens, cascading over the newly formed crust, running in torrents across the barren rock, and pooling in the lowest-lying areas. The great basins and craters left over from the era of bombardment began to fill. Slowly but surely, the first oceans were born. They were not the blue, salty seas we know today. They were likely acidic and filled with dissolved iron, giving them a murky, olive-green appearance. Yet, they were a cradle. Hydrothermal vents, fissures on the seafloor, gushed superheated water. It was here, in this primordial soup, that simple chemical compounds began to form more complex molecules. The first, most primitive forms of life had appeared. Against all odds, on a planet born of fire and violence, a new story was beginning. The story of life, the story of us.